Outlast Trials is one of the most horrifying games you can play. The horror genre in gaming has seen many iterations, from psychological thrillers to visceral gore fests, but few titles grip the player with relentless terror quite like the Outlast Trials. Developed by Red Barrels, this installment in the Outlast series pivots from its traditional solo campaign to a co-op format, without losing any of its chilling intensity. From the very first moment players are dropped into the grotesque Cold War-era experiments conducted by the sinister Murkoff Corporation, the game enforces a sense of helplessness and dread that lingers long after the console is turned off. One of the primary reasons the Outlast Trials is so horrifying lies in its atmosphere. The game crafts environments that feel palpably oppressive, dark, decaying asylum-like facilities filled with flickering lights, ominous whispers, and the ever-present threat of enemy patrols. Every hallway echoes with the tortured screams of previous test subjects, making exploration a psychological gauntlet. These meticulously designed settings evoke a claustrophobic fear, reminiscent of the worst nightmares trapped within abandoned institutions and experimental chambers. The gameplay mechanics amplify the horror experience by stripping players of traditional power. Unlike many survival horror games that offer weapons or magic to defend against foes, the Outlast Trials deprives players of any real combat ability. Instead, players must rely on stealth, strategy, and communication to survive. The feeling of running from a monstrous figure, while unable to fight back, is more than just unsettling, it becomes emotionally exhausting. This sense of vulnerability is what turns the game into a truly nerve-wracking experience. Adding to the tension is the innovative use of multiplayer. While horror often thrives in isolation, the Outlast Trials challenges that notion by forcing players into co-op scenarios where trust is critical but never guaranteed. Each participant must complete tasks while evading threats, and one player's mistake can jeopardize the entire team. This dynamic adds a psychological layer to the terror. Not only must you manage your own fear, but you must also rely on others who may be equally compromised by panic. The antagonists in the Outlast Trials are grotesque caricatures of authority figures, drawn from twisted themes of medical abuse, religious fanaticism, and military experimentation. These villains are not just scary in appearance. They represent deeper fears about control, manipulation, and human suffering. Their erratic behavior, unpredictable patrols, and blood-curdling voice lines make every encounter a uniquely terrifying ordeal. It's not just the jump scares, they instill an existential discomfort that lingers in your gut. The game's missions are structured to break the player down psychologically, mirroring the fictional MKUltra-inspired experiments within its lore. Tasks often involve disturbing objectives, like retrieving a severed limb or administering punishment to mannequins dressed as victims. These trials are designed to provoke ethical unease, and even when the player succeeds, it rarely feels like a victory. Instead, there's a creeping sense that participation itself is a kind of corruption, drawing the player deeper into Murkoff's dystopian world. Visually, the Outlast Trials uses a grimy, film-grain aesthetic that mimics found footage horror and VHS distortion. This design choice adds to the feeling that what you're witnessing isn't just a game, but a forbidden tape documenting real atrocities. Combined with the immersive binaural audio that makes every distant scream or dragging footstep feel close behind, the game achieves a level of sensory immersion that pushes players to the edge of their nerves. Crucially, the Outlast Trials doesn't rely solely on sudden frights. It builds its horror through pacing and psychological manipulation. Quiet moments are often more disturbing than loud ones, when a door creaks open by itself or when the lights flicker and you're not sure if you saw something move. These subtle cues keep the mind on high alert, and the tension becomes almost unbearable during prolonged sequences where danger feels imminent but never arrives, until it finally does. Unlike other horror games that might give you time to breathe, the Outlast Trials maintains a constant state of fear through a mix of randomized enemy spawns, disorienting effects like temporary blindness or hallucinations, and the need to complete objectives under extreme pressure. This relentless pacing ensures that players never feel safe, not even in what should be calm moments. It's a psychological endurance test disguised as entertainment. One of the most effective horror elements in the game is its use of sound. Every environmental cue, from a rattling vent to the buzz of an old fluorescent bulb, feels deliberately placed to spike the player's anxiety. When enemies are nearby, their distorted moans and erratic footsteps become your only guide. The lack of a traditional HUD or mini-map means you must listen and observe carefully, further immersing you in the moment-to-moment dread of survival. The theme of control and surveillance is woven throughout the game's narrative and mechanics. You're always being watched, recorded, and evaluated. Cameras track your movements, loudspeakers issue orders, and unseen observers comment on your progress. This Big Brother-like omnipresence turns the game into more than just a test of physical escape. It becomes a meditation on powerlessness and loss of autonomy, which strikes a chord with players on a deeply human level. What sets the Outlast trials apart from many other horror games is that it doesn't merely aim to scare. It aims to unnerve, to unsettle, and to disturb. The scares are not confined to sudden moments of fright. They permeate the entire experience like a toxin. This is horror that gets under your skin and stays there, revisiting you in moments of silence and darkness long after the console is off. The cooperative nature of the game also ensures that fear is shared, and sometimes amplified, through social dynamics. Watching a friend get taken by a monstrous captor, or being forced to leave someone behind to survive, triggers a unique form of guilt and stress. These emotionally loaded moments transform the Outlast trials into not just a test of fear tolerance but also a study of morality and camaraderie under duress. As horror gaming continues to evolve, the Outlast trials has carved its place as one of the most horrifying entries the medium has to offer. Its combination of environmental dread, psychological torment, multiplayer tension, and disturbing thematic content makes it an experience unlike any other. It doesn't just want to scare you, it wants to change the way you think about fear, trust, and the fragility of the human mind. In conclusion, the Outlast Trials is a masterclass in interactive horror, using every available tool, from sensory design to narrative depth, to evoke terror in its most raw and unrelenting form. It's not just a game you play, it's an ordeal you survive. And for those brave enough to step into its twisted world, it promises one of the most horrifying and unforgettable experiences in modern gaming.